Da 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 da. Welcome to the very first pilot episode of disenFRIENDSchised. And yes, that spelling is on purpose. I'm Karen Bulinski Mathison, grief coach, certified death doula, and the founder of TheNakedGrief. And just so we're clear right up front, my knowledge is from education, professional experience, and my own personal losses. I do trauma-aware, practical grief support and coaching for real life, the kind that helps you stand a bit taller on those challenging days. And why Friends? Because Friends is comfort TV for a lot of us. It's familiar, it's funny, it's background noise when your brain is fried. It's the thing you put on when you don't have the energy for anything heavy. But here's what people miss. Underneath the jokes, these characters are constantly dealing with loss. And the term for their kind of loss is disenfranchised. It's not just death loss that shows up, but loss of identity, loss of safety, loss of belonging, loss of a future that you thought you were going to have, loss of a relationship that never even got a real chance. And a lot of those losses don't get taken seriously in real life. And that's what we're doing here. In each episode, we're going to pick apart one Friends episode throughout the entire series, not to ruin anything. And we're going to tell you the truth about what's actually happening underneath, identifying those disenfranchised grief moments through the lens of Friends. So just so you understand what the term disenfranchised means, because it took me forever to really grasp what it was. It's grief that isn't recognized, validated, or supported by the people around you. It's often minimized. And even though you may be hurting, you don't get the comfort that you would when the bigger losses in life occur, because people don't know how to show up for all the other stuff because everybody handles it different. They may feel that it wasn't that serious or that you'll bounce back and be fine, or they may be doing the at least it wasn't worse, or why are they still upset, or you should be over it by now because of the kind of loss that it was. Disenfranchised grief can happen after a death, especially if the relationship was complicated, private, stigmatized, or not official in other people's eyes. But it also happens with non-death losses, like divorce or breakups, infertility or miscarriage, job loss or career identity shifts, estrangement, losing friends or community, chronic illness or disability changes, moving and losing your sense of home, the version of you that existed before. So basically, if you're grieving and people act like you don't have the right to, that's disenfranchised grief. So what you'll get from this podcast isn't just a recap show. It's not a look at how funny the scene is. It's a grief show using Friends as the lens. Every episode, I'm going to name what's happening emotionally, call out the patterns that we normalize, and give you something practical to take with you. A reframe, a tool, a question, a permission slip. Because you don't need more inspirational quotes. You need language for what you're carrying. And the term for this is cinema therapy. You identify through the characters that you've known since the 90s. So let's jump in. Episode 1, Season 1, the one where Monica gets a roommate, otherwise known as the pilot. So, quick summary of everything that happens. We meet Chandler, Phoebe, Joey, and Monica sitting around the coffee shop. In walks Ross, and the first words he says is, "Hi." We learn that his soon-to-be ex-wife's moving her stuff out. He's bummed. And within minutes, in walks Rachel in a wedding dress. So we've got two characters immediately identified as leaving relationships. Rachel, runaway bride. Ross, losing his wife because she found a new partner. In the process of it all, Monica goes on a first date with a guy, Paul the wine guy, and apparently it's a pretty big deal because everybody in the Friends group knows who Paul the wine guy is before he even enters the room. And Paul has also gone through a divorce, given Monica some little tips because she kind of asked on behalf of her brother. And he gives the guilt trip of, I haven't been able to perform since my last breakup. And Monica breaks her own boundaries, feeling like she's doing him a favor, and gets hurt in the process. So now let's look at the disenfranchised grief lens. The episode has a whole buffet of grief that people don't treat like grief. Rachel's loss isn't Barry. It is and it isn't. Yeah, Barry technically is the one that looks like he's hurt. He got left at the altar. But the grief that Rachel's experiencing is having to now figure out her own identity, finding her own independence, giving up the life that she was supposed to have. It's the death of a script, the life she was raised to live, to be the wife of a doctor or a dentist. The identity she was praised for, the safety net she assumed would always be there. And when she cuts up those credit cards at the end, that's not being dramatic. She's grieving. It's not just being dramatic. She's grieving the end of being taken care of, because those credit cards are paid for by her father. And she's now faced with living on her own with Monica, no boyfriend, no job, no game plan, and no father to fall back on. And then we've got Ross, who's grieving a living loss. Carol didn't die, but the marriage did. And because she's alive, and because there's a new person in the picture, Ross is expected to be cool about it. And that's disenfranchised grief. The loss is real, but the world doesn't want you to act like it. And he's not just grieving the loss of Carol. It's understanding that the marriage is over. He doesn't have someone even financially to share the bills with. He's lost everything. She took all the furniture, for crying out loud. He's building IKEA stuff. So there's a lot of transition that he's learning to balance. And then Monica's storyline is about dignity and trust. Being lied to for sex is a kind of violation. It was played for laughs, but it still hits you in a sense of safety and your ability to trust your own judgment. She was trying to be the caregiver and the supportive person. Hey, if he wants to and he can, then why not? And it was a line. And Joey actually laughs at Monica about it and said, of course it was a line. And that rattles Monica too and sends her down a little bit more. She regains her composure when she does what Paul actually expressed on the date. Monica asks, well, how did you handle your divorce? And he said, I just found something expensive of hers and broke it. He left his watch. She smashed it. So some coaching moments here for these characters. If you've ever had to start over because the life you planned collapsed, that's not dramatic. That's traumatic. And you're grieving. And that grief is real, even if nobody acknowledges it. And let's be clear about something. Even good stuff in life can be grief. Graduation, even a wedding. You spend months planning that party. And the day after the party, there's no more planning. There's no more excitement. There's no more what to look forward to. Now your identity shifted and you're now the significant other. You're now the roommate, the person sharing the bills. And that's an adjustment. Good, but it's still an adjustment. And graduation, same thing. Promotions, same thing. And then there's the other parts, the breakups, the losing of people, of things breaking, replacing cars. There's all kinds of things. But the thing about the identity loss is that it doesn't feel like grief at first. It feels like disorientation. You wake up and you think, who am I now? And the question is terrifying because you don't have an answer. You spent your whole life being the bride or the husband or the person with the plan or the roommate or the child, and suddenly that person doesn't exist anymore. So here's the permission I want to give you, and I would give to the characters. You get to grieve that. You get to feel the loss of that identity. You don't have to jump straight into building a new life or being strong. You can sit in the I don't know who I am space for a while. That's not weakness, that's integration. And if people around you are trying to fix your grief with hockey games or new relationships or you'll be fine in energy, that's them trying to manage their own discomfort with your loss. It's them trying to be supportive. Because if you don't tell them what you need, they've got to guess. And if they guess for too long, they may stop showing up. But so acknowledge their effort, even if it isn't exactly what you need. But definitely acknowledge what you need. So some takeaways from this episode. Disenfranchised grief often starts as disorientation, the whole who am I now piece. Cutting ties with an old identity can feel like withdrawal, because it is. And even if they're alive, the fact that they're no longer alive in your life is the death of something. And no one should treat it like you should be fine, because that's one of the cruelest rules that we were ever taught. So if you've ever had to start over because the life you planned collapsed, welcome. You're not dramatic, you're traumatically grieving. And if you want to explore this deeper, head over to TheNakedGrief.com, where we have courses, community, and real talk about the grief that doesn't fit the narrative. We'll see you for the next episode. Da 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 da.